And so the godly Bible teachers of a century ago were making a most wanted poster for believers. They showed who the enemies of the truth were. So how do we spot these false teachers? What do the signposts pointing people in the wrong direction believe and teach? What's the message that's promoted by Satan's legion of liars? Well, most often it's not what they say. It's what they don't say. And I've said this many times, but I remember when I was doing my master's work, when I was at Bob Jones University and I had to do one of my master's theses, we were supposed to pick one television personality. And this was in the 70s. And so I picked the biggest television personality of the day. And I'm not going to mention their name, but their church is totally made of glass, and it's in California. And so I wrote them a letter, that person, whoever it is. And I wrote them a letter, and I said, I am a student. I'm at Bob Jones University. I'm doing a paper on doctrine, and I would like to ask you a few simple questions. Isn't that dumb to think you could write a letter like that and get through? I didn't think it would ever get through, but I wrote to that person. And I said, and so I need to have from you, if at all possible, and I still have this letter in my file cabinet, what your answers to these questions. I said, number one, do you believe in sin? That's a very straightforward question. In fact, the book he wrote that year was Self-Esteem, the Second Reformation. The second question I ask is, do you believe in hell? And I said, those are my questions. Could you please respond? I got back the most beautiful letter you've ever seen. It was on paper that probably cost $5 for the envelope. You know what I mean? It was the most luxurious, felt like cloth. And it had foil inside. And it had that was the envelope. And I opened it, and there was a piece of paper that matched that. And I opened that, and beautifully typed out answer and signed by that person. And they said this: if I believed in sin, you would hear me talk about it. If I believed in hell, you would hear me talk about it. Thanks for asking. And they signed it. Did you know it's not what they say, it's what they don't say? You never hear them, the false teachers, attacking Christ's deity. They just don't really talk about it. You don't hear them attacking the scriptural teaching that all were born in sin. They just don't talk about sin. They talk about failures and weaknesses and overcoming and mountains that we tunnel through. But they don't say that you were born lost and Jesus came to seek and to save the lost. They don't say that. It's not what they do say. It's what they don't say. So the characteristics, and we only have 11 minutes to get them, and I'm going to give them to you. Let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 4. And I want to just real quickly, and by the way, we're not ending this tonight. I just want to start with the characteristics of, or how to spot a false teacher from the Bible. Not, from anything that I could conjure up. Just what did the Lord say? How can we spot them? The first one's in 1 Timothy 4:1, and it is that they deny the exclusivity, or that Christ is the only way. The exclusivity of Christ. That neither is there salvation in any other, for there is no other name under heaven by which you must be saved. That's a pretty clear verse in the Bible. They deny that. And it says in 1 Timothy 4:1, now the Spirit expressly says that in the latter times some will depart from the faith. What is the faith? It's the once and for all delivered gospel that Jesus Christ and His cross and His blood and His sinless life and His perfect sacrifice is the only way to heaven. Jesus said, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. So did you know that recently, 10 years ago, a theologian in a mainline seminary wrote a book. And he said that he was walking down the beach and he tripped and he hit his head on a rock. And momentarily on that beach, he was transported to heaven. And when he got there, he couldn't believe his eyes. Talking to Moses was Buddha. Talking to Peter was Confucius. And talking to Paul was Muhammad. And he wrote that book. And on the back cover, affirming and writing that they gave their little okay to that book, were 2 or 3 of the most well-known evangelicals in the country. Do you know what that book says? It says that Buddha is going to heaven. I hope he got saved. He lived about Nehemiah's time. I hope someone got the gospel to him. And Confucius is in heaven. And Muhammad is in heaven, according to this guy. Did you know that denying that Christ is the only way, 1 Timothy 4:1 says, that they are giving heed, look at the end of verse 1, to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. Satan wants everyone to think that the way is broad and wide is the way that leads to heaven. And most people will go there. In fact, all people will go there, according to Satan's theology. They deny the only way is Christ. Look at